Good evening, you're watching News Mongolian World. I'm your host, Bayannnur. And for our top stories, 1,303 confirmed cases and 18 additional deaths reported. MPP candidates win the parliamentary by-elections. Mongolian factories extract fine cashmere from sheep wool. And for the news, stay tuned. The Ministry of Health reported that 1,303 new COVID-19 cases were confirmed on Tuesday and 18 people have died.
The Ministry of Health today on October 19 has reported that 1,303 new COVID-19 cases were detected in the past 24 hours after tests were carried out at PCR laboratories across the country. And 6,710 patients who were being treated recovered within the past 24 hours. Unfortunately, 18 people died due to COVID-19 complications. All new cases are of domestic transmission, 720 out of which were confirmed in Ulaanbaatar, and the remaining 583 were confirmed in the provinces. 18,464 COVID-19 patients are being treated at hospitals nationwide. Additionally, 51,302 patients are being treated at home. Among the 18,464 COVID-19 patients being treated at hospitals nationwide, 9,056 are showing mild symptoms of illness and 383 are in critical condition. Currently in Mongolia, 2,253,925 people have received their first COVID-19 vaccine dose nationwide, and 2,136,376 people have received their second dose of vaccine.
Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs.
On October 12th and 13th, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Mongolia to the People's Republic of China, BAYANNUUR, visited Ulti and Seke ports during his working visit to Inner Mongolia, which took place from October 11th through the 14th. Ambassador BAYANNUUR met with the Deputy Mayor of Alshad League and officials from Ulti and Seke ports. The parties exchanged views on improving cooperation in preventing the spread of COVID-19 and possibilities for expanding cargo transport at the ports. Ambassador BAYANNUUR highlighted that Seke is a key border crossing for bilateral trade and economic cooperation. The ambassador also suggested increasing the daily number of vehicles processed at the border to 400 to increase the amount of bilateral trade turnover. Deputy Mayor Tsitsing of Alshad League called for expanding trade with Mongolia and the diversification of goods traded. He also announced that 728 million RMB aid from Alshad League would be provided to Bayannur province. The head of Seke port presented plans for commencing the construction of the Seke Railroad, which is expected to increase coal trade, expand the import of Mongolian meat products, and enhance cooperation in pandemic response. On October 14th, Ambassador BAYANNUUR met with Deputy Mayor of Bayannur, Yu Li-in, to exchange views on opportunities for expanding bilateral trade. As an outcome of the meeting, the sides have agreed to allow truck drivers to cross the border twice a day with a single negative COVID-19 test result. If the practice proves to be successful, it would provide opportunities for increasing the daily number of COVID-19 tests administered to truck drivers from 280 to 360, potentially bringing the daily number of coal trucks crossing the border up to 700.
Mongolian People's Party candidates Batshogor and Iterbat won the majority of votes in last Saturday's second round of by-election voting. A second round of voting was required because of insufficient voter turnout for the first by-election. While no minimum voter turnout was required for repolling, turnout remained very low. The by-election was held in electoral districts number 18 in Khinti province and number 28 in Ulaanbaatar Sungan district. Voter turnout for the first round of voting in both electoral districts was less than 50% of the total number of voters, resulting in the General Election Commission scheduling required repolling on Saturday, October 16th. A total of 2.2 billion Mongolian Turks was budgeted for the by-election, with 1.8 billion budgeted for General Election Commission activities and the remaining 400 million for other expenses. Repolling was conducted within the allocated by-election budget. Votes cast in repolling were added to the previous ballot count. Repolling is held only once and there is no required percentage of voter participation.
The National Emergency Commission discussed the current status of COVID-19, the results of measures taken to intensify the booster shot campaign, as well as the introduction of infection control regimes for private businesses. According to a survey conducted by the National Center for Communicable Diseases, Surveillance and Research Department, there are currently 3 primary sources of transmission among healthcare service providers, education facilities, and private businesses. The NEC will start taking specific measures to tackle the spread of the virus in these sectors. There are more than 40 mobile immunization sites operating to distribute vaccinations at large enterprises, universities, and student dormitories. So far, around 80% of the city's target vaccination group have received a COVID-19 booster shot.
Experts say that sheep wool actually contains a little bit of soft cashmere wool. For example, 1 kilogram of sheep wool can contain up to 200 grams of cashmere. In our next report, we will introduce some local companies that operate in the clothes manufacturing sector.
A local company, Mongolian National, discovered this business opportunity and started manufacturing knitted products out of cashmere extracted from sheep wool. The quality of the fiber can easily compete with that of ordinary cashmere from goats, and we know that. In the meantime, the production cost can be decreased up to 3-fold.
This fine fiber can be produced from 100% sheep wool. In addition, we can mix it with 20 to 30% goat cashmere. If these fibers are exported abroad, the clothing produced from these natural materials will be expensive. We are operating at only 15 to 50% of our factory capacity.
The producers note that government support is needed in developing a sustainable light knitting industry in Mongolia. Annually, Mongolia produces 25 to 35,000 tons of sheep wool, and only 30% of that is purchased by local companies and becomes a value-added product.
For example, public servants' uniforms are produced from imported materials. I would like to show this dark blue material that can be used for making uniforms for policemen, soldiers, and other public servants. We have the capacity to produce all these necessary uniforms locally.
This is the Ivel clothing factory. They produce 25 to 40,000 pieces of clothing per month. The company purchases its materials once every 3 months, so they say no material deficit was encountered during the pandemic. However, the company owner says the tax policy support is really needed for companies operating in the clothing industry.
We do imports like zippers, buttons, and other small items from foreign markets. Producers like us need a special support policy on the import of raw materials. Also, with regards to the social welfare policy, there should be some tax support provided to people who are working in local factories.
The Ivel clothing factory employs around 120 workers. The business owners note that if people start buying locally produced goods and products, it will have a positive outcome on the economy, as it will create more jobs.
Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Now let's take a look at the weather forecast of world's major cities. Well, that's all for today, and thank you for tuning in on MNB World. We will see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.